excited for today's episode. Hello, yes, and good morning. My name is Krysten Jansen. Welcome to the first episode of Tutorial Tuesdays, where I'm going to be covering everything when it comes to content creation in regards to how I edit my photos, video, what camera gear I use, editing software that I use as well, everything in regards to content creation, questions that I get on a daily basis when it comes to this type of stuff. I have been getting so many DMs lately that I just figured it's time to actually make a series about this because I can only write so much in the Instagram DM. Without further ado, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Alright, as you guys can tell from the title of today's video, the most common question that I get: what cameras and glass do I use? So currently I actually am shooting on right now the Sony A6300. This camera is a couple of years old and I honestly still love it. It's my favorite camera. We've upgraded to the A7S II and the 6300 is still my favorite. Let's go over what this camera can actually do. This is an Aps-C sensor camera, also known as a crop sensor camera. The difference between an Aps-C sensor and a mirrorless camera is the image sensor format. Basically, the difference between this camera and a full frame camera is just the field of view. So this sensor actually has a multiplier of 1.5, which will affect the type of lenses that you're actually putting on this camera. For example, right now I'm actually shooting with the 35mm 1.8 lens, but because this camera does have a multiplier of 1.5, technically we're actually shooting with a 50mm lens, even though a 35 lens is on there. So another example, if I were to actually put my 50mm lens on there, this would multiply and convert to a 75mm. This camera does shoot in 4K 30 like most cameras do nowadays. I don't shoot in 4K too much. I often keep it to 1080p. That's just because my laptop can't actually handle 4K all that often, so I'll only shoot in 4K for big commercial projects or weddings and stuff like that, basically for videos that aren't my own, but any edits that I do for my YouTube channel, Kyle's YouTube channel, we will typically stick to the 1080p, but it is nice to have the 4K option when we are doing more commercial related projects. This camera does have 24 megapixels, which is absolutely amazing. This is definitely our go-to camera whenever we're actually taking pictures. But some of the downfall with this camera is it's not the best in low light settings. I found that when we were shooting any type of events in the evenings, we've done a couple of weddings, we've done a couple of engagement parties, and I always found a lot of noise in our nighttime shots when it came to shooting this camera, so we had to rely a lot on the A7S II when it came to the nighttime shots, which we'll discuss next. Alright, moving on to the A7S II. This camera is a monster. I absolutely love this camera. It's a mirrorless camera, meaning that it doesn't have a crop sensor, so there's no multiplier. If you put an 85mm on there, it's going to be 85mm, so you don't have to worry about figuring that out to make sure that you're in frame. So for this camera, I find that it is very good, like I mentioned before, for shooting in low light settings. Sorry, sweetie, it's okay, lie down. The infrastructure that Sony has spent on this camera for your ability to shoot in low light is absolutely amazing. So whenever we want to take pictures at night, which we haven't done too often, which we're gonna start, this is definitely gonna be our go-to camera. Sorry, I can't show it to you right here. Kyle is out using it right now. So let's talk about some of the benefits between having an Aps-C sensor versus a full frame camera. Firstly, it's going to come down to your personal preference. Me, I actually like more close-up shots when it comes to B-roll, photos, and other types of videos. So that's why I am more drawn to the crop sensor camera. That's why I'm more drawn to the 6300, just because of the close-ups of it. Now, if you are shooting real estate, for example, you don't want to have a crop censored video when it comes to that, because it makes the room look a lot smaller. You're not capturing the entire room, and it's very difficult for people to see how the house actually looks because you're not getting the full picture. So that's where the full frame camera actually is much more beneficial as well when it comes to shooting certain events. So if you want to get an entire crowd when you're shooting something for a wedding, for example, if you want to get the entire guests that are there, then having a full frame camera is beneficial for that too. So you kind of got to ask yourself what you're shooting and what your needs are for the projects that you're shooting. In reverse, when I am shooting gym edits, I don't really care for people to see the entire body of what people are doing in the gym, unless it is a informative video and you want to actually demonstrate an exercise. Most of the gym videos that we do are more dramatic, they're more cinematic, so I like to actually have the intensity of our gym edits more amplified, and the way to do that is to get close-ups of people's facial interactions, how their muscles are contracting, versus getting the full frame of how the person is performing the exercise. Sometimes it's good for those gym edits for you to not really know what they're doing, which exercise they're doing, so you get that effect when you're shooting on a crop sensor. But like I said, for real estate videos, there's no way that we have ever even tried to use the A6300, because you don't want to create the illusion of a small house, you want to create the illusion of a bigger house. A full frame camera is the best option for you to create this effect. Okay, and last camera, this is the first camera that I've ever used. I will still use it once in a while, and that is the Sony Rx100. This little bad boy right here. This thing is a beast. I mean, this was the very first camera that I got when I first started YouTube 3 years ago, I think now, and it is still going strong. I still use it once in a while because look at how small it is. You know, it doesn't draw attention. If you are going to an event or something where you're not allowed to have cameras, then this thing, it still takes pretty good quality videos that you can get away with using it still. So it doesn't shoot in 4K, but like I said, I wouldn't use this for a professional project anyways. It does shoot in 1080p, which is still a great quality picture that you want with your videos. And it does have an f-stop of 1.8, so you still get some pretty decent bokeh when you're filming with this. Like I said, this camera is pretty awesome. And lastly, the megapixels on it is 20, so that's crazy to me to think the megapixels on this are higher than the A7S II. Something to keep in mind when it comes to comparing megapixel to megapixel, you can't really notice a big difference unless you're actually doing prints. So the difference, even though this has a higher megapixel, I would still take pictures on the A7S II with a 12 megapixel. I don't think I mentioned that before. Yeah, so it only has 12 megapixel, the A7S II. I forgot to mention that. This one still does the trick. So let me just show you, like, I'll keep this going, hit record on this, and let's compare the quality next to each other. I don't think I've ever done that before. Obviously the lighting is going to be a little bit different because it's hitting me differently, whereas this one has been set up perfectly with the light there. This one it hasn't, so like it would have to be way back where the 6300 is. But I mean, like, looking at the quality right now, it's pretty decent, right? So if you're outside vlogging, you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself, this guy, it's a good go-to camera. So those are currently the cameras that we are using. Last camera that I would recommend people, if this is just something that's way over your head and you're just not too sure, is this bad boy right here. Fuck it, let's cue it up. I don't actually film on my phone, but little pro tip is if you are filming on your phone, don't film with the screen towards you, because that's the crappier camera. You want actually this lens pointing at you if you want to use your phone for vlogging. Only thing that sucks is you can't really see yourself, but it's pretty much a full frame camera. So let's just give me a second here. Like, I'll show you. Like, here's with the screen facing towards me. It's okay. Like, it's an iPhone 8, I think. Do I have an iPhone 8? I can't freaking keep up with these things anymore, but I'm pretty sure it's an iPhone 8. But like, look at it. It's pretty decent. If you're filming in the gym that you're not allowed to film in the gym, this is a great option. So let's turn this bad boy around. So this is the first time of me trying to film it the other way. That's just based on recommendations, but I mean, I can't see myself. I don't know if I'm in frame. That's kind of the downfall of it, but I'm just making sure that I look right into the lens there. Just make sure that you test it. But the biggest thing with that is, you know, it's affordable, you have it at your disposal, and it draws like zero attention to you. So if it's something that you're just getting into, maybe you can't afford any camera gear at this point in time, just using your iPhone. So I mean, you can definitely use this on the go, and I always will film with this lens whenever I post it on my Insta stories if I post like something like a workout video, I definitely notice a quality difference shooting this way versus the other way. All right, lastly, let's discuss the lenses that I use. Lenses, again, are just gonna come down to your personal preference. We have definitely bought lenses, we used them for a bit, and we've ended up selling them. So it's gonna come down to your personal preference and just kind of testing them out. But the lenses that have seemed to be working well for us right now is the first one, which is the 35mm 1.8. That's what is shooting me right now with the A6300. Again, this converts at 1.5, so technically it's a 50mm focal length, but I mean, it's a great lens. I really enjoy it because you can still get some good cinematics in the gym and you don't have to be too far away from your subject, whereas as you get larger with your lenses, the further away you're gonna have to be. So that's the 35mm. Then we have the 51.8mm. I love this lens. This is just a great lens for taking portraits. The bokeh on it is absolutely amazing. We haven't been using it too much lately because we got this beast right here. This lens, 85 1.4. Now, if anybody understands what that means, you know how amazing that is. Basically, your f-stop, the 1.4, determines the depth of field when you're taking a photo and your videos. So the amount of beautiful bokeh that you get when you're taking videos and photos with this lens is absolutely amazing. This lens scares the shit out of me. You can actually hear it when you're starting it up, like it's like it's working, but this is a beautiful lens. This lens is something that we've been using to take portraits and even full frame photos. So just because the amount of like the 1.4, our ability to basically blur out everything behind us, this lens allows us to do that. Our photos on Instagram are because of this beautiful lens here. Now these lenses typically stay on the A6300 because, like I said before, most of our close-up cinematics are shot on the 6300 and most of our photos are actually shot on the 6300. We actually have a 16 to 35, I think it's a 2.8 lens for the A7S II. That is the only zoom lens that we have. The 16 to 35 range, we found that that's probably the best option for vlogging purposes and when we're shooting real estate. We're shooting a lot of real estate videos lately and we need a wide angle lens. A 16mm really allows us to capture the entire room. Like we can see the entire room, whereas one of these lenses will only be able to capture about half of the room. So that's why these lenses are perfect for photo. The 16 to 35 is much better for vlogging and for real estate videos. So that's just what we have found that works good for us. It's been a lot of trial and error, but that's currently where we're at. Yeah, so I think that's all I got for you guys today. Woo! That was fun. I like talking camera gear. I didn't know how much I would like talking camera gear. I'm normally used to hearing Kyle talk about it all the time. He just eats this shit up and talks about it with everybody, but I listen, I picked up on all of it, and holy hell, I'm just as much of a nerd as he is now. It's official. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. If you guys have any questions about future videos you want to see, any of the topics or discussion points that I have discussed today, leave a comment down below. I would love hearing from you guys. I would love to know your feedback, and I'm super excited. So I will see you guys in the next episode next Tuesday. There's gonna be another video on Friday. If you guys follow me on Instagram, which you should, I'm only gonna be posting 2 videos a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays focusing on tutorials, and then Fridays focusing on all things fitness related. So thanks you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.